Vladilena came from a nation that claimed its wars were fought by autonomous drones. In reality, those drones were secretly piloted by slaves known as the 86. But when she meets Shin, a boy who can hear the voices of his fallen comrades, she's forced to confront the horrifying truth behind her country. Lena arrives at the San Magnolia military headquarters and finds everyone already drunk. The intoxicated soldiers greet the major, but she brushes them off. She overhears the men talking about the pigs crying during the battle and claiming at least 50 died. They notice the doll-loving princess glaring and begin mocking her. Lena moves to confront them, but Annette steps in, greets her, and pulls her away. Annette tells her this is not the battlefield and says the enemy will shut down in 2 years, so she should not dwell on it. Lena insists their actions are immoral, but Annette, exhausted from an all-nighter, refuses to argue. They then overhear soldiers from the 1st sector complaining about working with the pigs from the 86th sector. Annette asks why she cares so much about the drones, then corrects herself and asks why she cares so much about Sector 86. Lena looks down, but suddenly receives a call to the battlefield. She enters a secluded room and logs in, stating her full name and rank, Major Vladilena Milize, commanding officer of the Eastern Front's 9th Ward's 3rd Defensive Squadron. After putting on the para-raid choker, she visualizes enemy positions and synchronizes with the Pleiades processors. She greets them with a smile, and they greet their handler in return. She tells them to be careful, but other officers mock her for treating the subhuman 86 kindly. They call her a human in contrast. Hours later, Brigadier General Karlstahl reassigns her to a new unit after her previous handler transfers. The assignment is the Eastern Front's 1st Ward's 1st Defensive Squadron, the Spearhead Squadron, an elite unit made of veterans from across the Eastern Front. Lena asks why she was chosen despite her recent promotion to major, and Karlstahl notes her youth. He warns her not to be overly humble, or she will create unnecessary enemies. She apologizes to her uncle Jerome, who says her father would be proud. Karlstahl admits no one would accept the position. The unit's leader is codenamed Undertaker, known as the Reaper, with a tendency to destroy handlers. Lena is surprised it is not the other way around. Almost all previous handlers either transferred, retired, or committed suicide, reportedly haunted by voices of the dead. Karlstahl tells her she may refuse, but Lena immediately accepts. He then tells her to stop listing casualties in her reports, since officially there are no humans on the battlefield. Lena calls it unforgivable, but Karlstahl stops her and says she is just like her father. Lena returns to the research wing and informs Annette of her promotion, calling the handler rumors, excuses for lazy soldiers. Annette contradicts her, stating they are true, including a handler who blew his own brains out with a shotgun. She explains they investigated whether the para-raid technology caused it. The device was fine, and the handler was simply dead. She could not get approval to use the Undertaker unit due to soldiers refusing to ride in a chopper with the 86 pigs. They note the para-raid could cause insanity due to sensory overload, and that full synchronization would likely overwhelm the brain. Annette offers cake, which Lena initially declines, but accepts after learning it is made with real eggs and milk, finding it delicious compared to the artificial food. Annette also offers cream puffs and jokes about a previous burnt batch, claiming she gave some to a potential marriage partner who cried tears of joy after receiving a card marked, "To my beloved," delivered to where he lived with a side piece. 1 week later on May 20th, Lena attempts to contact the processors, but a woman tells her to stop and says he is dead. The squad is rapidly wiped out by Legion forces. Lena orders remaining members of the 3rd Squadron to return to base. She cries and apologizes for the 6 who died, but the woman interrupts her and tells her to stop with the kindness. Lena says they will be assigned a new handler and she will command Spearhead Squadron. The woman laughs, offers sympathy, and tells her to send regards to the Reaper. On May 22nd, Lena synchronizes with Spearhead Squadron in the middle of the night. 10 days earlier, Spearhead Squadron is shown at their base. Raiden orders the boys to clean while Kai waters plants outside. A Gunnar rag is thrown into Raiden's mouth, which made him pissed. Theo crosses out a picture of their 5th handler. Shin reads beside a mural before being called to breakfast. During the meal, they mock their previous handler who broke down during a mission. Kaye notes they still returned alive thanks to Shin. Kujo says if they are going to die, they would rather have the Reaper guide them. He calls Blackie over, who instead jumps onto him for affection. In the present, Spearhead Squadron is in combat. One member is down when an explosion hits. Legion drones search for them until dawn as they hide in plain sight. Kujo struggles and says he does not want to die. Once the area clears, Shin emerges and cocks his weapon. Kujo asks if he remembers their promise, and Shin raises his gun and kills him. Shin then carves a piece from Kujo's drone and stares into the sunset. Back at base, Shin engraves Kujo's name into the metal, while the others mark 129 days remaining in their service. All of them suddenly synchronize with Lena as she introduces herself as their new handler. Shin greets Handler 1, introduces himself as the Undertaker, and says they look forward to working with her. Moments later, Old Man Aldrecht marches over to complain to the squad about their busted-up drones. They were out of spares until they got a new shipment. Shin tells him to reuse the parts from Cujo's drone, but Aldrecht asks if he was really okay with using pieces from a drone someone died in. When Shin points over at his Juggernaut with Cujo's piece, Aldrecht apologizes, then says Cujo and the other processors were lucky to serve alongside him. He asks how's the new handler, and Shin says she's synchronized to say hello, and they'll be in contact daily moving forward, which was rare for a Republic soldier. As Shin puts away Cujo's piece, Aldrecht thinks it must have been rough living in her society while being a decent human. While reading with Whitey, Shin senses danger. Raiden and the others are loading up on produce for a big party, hoping Shin wouldn't find out. Suddenly, they get a radio signal informing them rain was coming. Raiden looks over and spots the Empire's signal jamming units, Eintagsfliege. They'll arrive in about 2 hours, and their radars are already down. Shin explains the rearguard units have formed up with the units to their immediate front and were likely resupplying. Once they're done, they'll set up an ambush along their route at grid point 304, forming a kill zone to neutralize the entire unit. Lena synchronizes and asks them to intercept the enemies at grid point 204. However, Undertaker informs her they'll intercept them farther ahead at grid point 304. Upon hearing this, Lena begins glazing his glizzy, saying he was as good as they say. The Legion comes out in full force with ground units, scouts, jammers, and tanks. Once the enemy forces cross the line, Shin gives the order to fire, and they begin shooting them down like O-block savages. Afterwards, he orders the 3rd platoon to lure the enemy and withdraw to the southeast. The 5th platoon is to hold current positions. When the enemy enters the kill zone, they are to coordinate their fire. Black Dog says Roger and tells the Snow Witch to reload when she gets the chance. Snow Witch says Roger and thanks him. Laughing Fox tells Black Dog to watch his back as he outmaneuvers the Legion's sentries, circles around, and obliterates them. While the squad leads the enemy drones around, others blast them from the upper floors. Shin rushes in but suddenly orders everyone to cease fire and spread out as missiles begin raining down on them. Lena signals in possible coordinates from spotters. There are 3 possible locations, and she orders them to move in, confirm, and eliminate them. Undertaker informs Handler 1 that directional laser-based data transmissions could reveal their location and tells her to limit herself to verbal communications during operations. Lena apologizes. When he asks to keep him informed of the new spotters, she agrees in a tone that makes him aggravated. They realize there are more enemy units than usual, especially the tank types. Shin says he'll handle them, then orders Raiden to take command and handle the rest. He charges in, dodges tank fire, repositions himself, and destroys the tank from above. As he massacres the enemy forces, Lena begins glazing the Undertaker once again. After the battle, the enemy forces retreat as the Spearhead crew gazes at the sunrise. 9 years earlier, in 2139, war was declared on the Republic of San Magnolia by the Empire of Gaiad. They begin their invasion using autonomous combat machines known as the Legion. However, Gaiad is believed to have lost control and was likely wiped out 4 years ago. The Legion had a hard-coded lifespan of 6 years and would shut down after 2 years. A decrepit old fool tells new recruits that the Republic's juggernauts are superior autonomous units with no casualties since their introduction. Lena interrupts, saying people have died, shocking everyone in the room. She is introduced as Major Vladilena Milize, a handler commanding the juggernauts, and explains the war's history. 9 years ago, the Republic's army was crushed in 2 weeks by the Legion. The government withdraws citizens into 85 sectors and enacts the Wartime Preservation Act, stripping rights from anyone who wasn't a pale, white-haired Alba. They are forced into the 86th sector, becoming the 86, used as expendable labor and pilots for the juggernauts while being denied their humanity. A student calls them subhumans who hadn't evolved, but Lena insists they are people and says she has fought alongside them every day. Another student asks if she's been to the battlefield, but she admits she has only been to the battlefield once, while the 86 bear all the risk. The professor warns her against her statements, claiming the nation's ideals apply only to citizens, but she refuses, and the officer listening in walks out. Later that night, Lena notices her vision getting blurry, but dismisses it and activates her para-raid collar. Once connected, Shin tells her good work today, while everyone listens in. Lena brings up his post-op reports since he became captain, and criticizes that they are all the same. Shin asks why she cares about the front lines, and Lena says it is the handler's job. She apologizes for previous handlers not reading the reports and says she will read them moving forward. Shin says he cannot read or write, and Theo says there were no schools in camp. Kaie accidentally corrects them, saying he just did not want to. When his page flips with force, Kaie looks back. Lena asks him to send reports from every mission up until now. Shin asks if he can send gun camera footage, but she says he has to write them up. They are an elite team, so their records are precious. Lena explains that if they can analyze them, they can create countermeasures to increase the survival rate of his team and the whole 86. Raiden thinks she sounds young, but Lena corrects him and says she is their age. She asks how long they have been serving, and they explain they are in their 4th year, while Undertaker is in his 5th. He is almost done with his service. Lena asks if he has any plans once he becomes a citizen of the Republic again, but Shin says he hasn't thought about it. When she tells him to start thinking about it, Shin cracks a small smile and says she may be right. While cooking up a barbecue, Haruto asks Daya where Anju went. Daya tells them she and the other girls are on cleaning duty. Haruto asks when they started, and he says after breakfast. Theo finds it odd since it is already lunchtime, then they realize they are bathing and suggest taking a peep. Daya says they'll end up on a list, but Haruto claims they may die tomorrow. Theo says not to worry, and they wouldn't look at his beloved Anju. Then he agrees. The girls enjoy themselves together at the river. They ask Kaie to join, but she says the current scenery is heaven on earth. Rin suddenly stands and says Kurena and Shin do not have duties today, and they should have found an excuse to get them alone together. Mina asks what she likes about him, but Kurena denies having any feelings for the gloomy Reaper. Anju asks Kaie what she thinks. While 3 virgins spy from the bushes, Kaie says Shin isn't bad, and she likes his stoic side. Kurena suddenly gets hostile, but Kaie says if nobody is interested, she could visit him in the middle of the night to get cracked. Kurena keeps denying it, while everyone knows she loves him. Theo signals multiple targets, and Haruto says fire, launching the blonde hair ditty into the flames of hell. The girls pull out pistols and spot a diddler with a kitchen spoon crawling out of the bushes. They pick up stones from the river and stone him. The others push him back while daggers fly in, and Anju approaches with a whip ready to unalive him. Gotcha! Kaie throws a stone at the others, and they come crawling out like roaches. During interrogations, the pipsqueaks both look too big, bro, like it was his idea. Daya says they just wanted to ask them something. Haruto tries to distract them with Kurena's love for Shin, and they all start laughing. However, Kai asks what they wanted, but Haruto points back to Daya. Daya reluctantly asks what a night visit is, causing them all to throw kitchen utensils at them. Kurena suddenly laughs it off. However, she walks out of their meeting later with the handler. When Daya chases after her, she asks why he is talking to that woman every night. It's time they could be spending together since they could all die tomorrow. Daya says it's only temporary, but Kurena asks why bother being nice to a white pig, claiming he should just break her instead. Daya explains Shin doesn't break the handlers on purpose, then asks if she can say that to his face. Kurena turns and apologizes, but still says she hates the white pigs. They threw her parents out like garbage and used them as target practice. When they return, Kaie is telling Lena about a night on the battlefield when the stars began falling like rain. There were streaks of light across the sky, and Raiden says it was a meteor shower. They were in a tough situation, and all the juggernauts were out, so they had to wait for their dog Fido, a robotic dog that goes beep. Raiden tells Lena the nights on the battlefield are dark and scary. Then the pale, silent lights began falling from the sky. He remembers saying something weird, and it was the biggest mistake of his life. Shin repeats what he said. If this was the last thing I see, then maybe this is not so bad. Everyone laughs at him as he asks why he had to tell her. Lena says she wishes she could have seen the meteor shower. She couldn't see them since the lights in the city never faded. Kaie says the nights there were dark, there were not many people, and they were far from everything. They had blackout orders before bed, so the stars were always beautiful. It was one of the only good things about their lives. Lena suddenly asks Kay if they despise them, the Albus. Kay explains discrimination does not feel good, and life in the internment camps is terrible. For those who forced it upon them, saying the 86 are livestock and not humans, she couldn't tolerate them. However, she knows not all Albas are bad, just like not all 86ers are good. There are probably good Albus, but she has never met one. A few of her comrades have, so she understands, which is why she will not hate her, because she is an Alba. When Lena says she needs to thank her comrades for that perspective, Theo looks visibly frustrated. Kaie says she has taken an interest in her, then asks why she cares about them so much. Lena explains a long time ago she was saved by a processor on the battlefield. He said they were members of the Republic and born and raised there. It was a citizen's duty to fight for their country and something to be proud of. She thought they needed to follow that example. The handlers asked them to fight without honoring their sacrifices, without getting to know them. Kaie suddenly asks if she is a virgin, catching her off guard. She quickly apologizes and says she meant a girl who thinks the world is made of flowers. Kaie says she isn't a bad person, so she is warning her now. She isn't cut out for the job and shouldn't get involved with them. They are not fighting for a noble cause. Kai suggests transferring before she ends up regretting it. Days later, during a battle, Lena provides new information using a map she found with Annette. Shin is impressed, and Lena offers to send it over after the battle. Shin asks if it is really okay to send classified information to the 86, but Lena says what good is information if it is not used. She then says she has never called them 86ers, but Shin stops her as the battle begins. Enemy targets start dropping like flies. Kai spots a lone low on the outskirts. When she moves to engage it, she notices the area on the map is wetlands and calls out, but it is too late and she is immobilized. She softly says she does not want to die as she is suddenly slaughtered. After the battle, Lena apologizes for Kirschblut's death. Laughing Fox asks what she was sorry about. They were thrown on the battlefield, treated as weapons, and forced to fight, while the Republic watched from afar behind the safety of the walls. He asks if she thought talking to them nicely every day counted as treating them as humans. He points out she has never even asked for their real names. Werewolf calls out to him and tells him to stop. He asks Lena to cut off the synchronization, saying the battle is over and she has no obligation to continue the connection. He adds that Laughing Fox went too far, but that doesn't mean they are in the mood to talk. Lena apologizes and cuts the connection. After it is cut, Theo apologizes to Kai, claiming he dishonored her death by acting like the white pigs. The squad spends the following days hanging out together, while Theo mopes around. He tries to get Blackie to stand still for a portrait, but the boys come over and say it looks like a fox. Kurena asks if he is bothered by what he said to that woman, but he is not. Daya says that isn't like him. Anju asks if he was reminded of his old captain Fox. Theo tells them to leave it, but Anju admits she is jealous he had someone to look up to. She has never had anyone. While Fido comes over with Kai's drone piece, Theo asks Shin what Captain Fox would have said to the handler. Before Shin can answer, Theo says it doesn't matter. Shin suddenly says the captain wouldn't have said what he said, then asks if that was what he thought. Later that night, Shin synchronizes with Lena and asks what she wants. Hours earlier, Lena goes to Annette to inform her of the conversation after Kai's death. Annette tells her it is not a big deal that she doesn't know their names since she will never meet them. Lena states Annette's full name and says she knew it because they were friends. A name is who you are. She says she didn't think of that and wasn't treating them like humans. Annette claims that if she really believed that, she would have asked for their names from the start. They are different in every way. They have pudding there, and they do not. Annette tells her the war has already begun, and there is no going back. She asks her to quit being a handler and join her in R&D, but Lena declines, saying she cannot quit. As she walks away, Annette looks at her with a hateful gaze, saying she should have listened. While walking, Lena has a flashback of her father taking her to the battlefield. He wanted to show her the 86th district, but the Legion attacked, and that decision cost him his life. Lena goes to Karlstahl's office to bring up the event that took place when her father died. She says she was thankful since she was able to learn the truth about the country and grasp the ideals the Republic threw away. Karlstahl says her father had a strong sense of justice, but there was something he did not realize. Just like everyone else, he stood idly by and watched. That was why he took her to the battlefield. The fact that he did something so reckless for the sake of his ideals proves his ignorance and stupidity. He says he didn't want her to end up like him, then tells her it is enough. She doesn't have to force herself to stick with such a tough team. When Lena refuses to stop, he turns and asks what the Republic's flag stood for. Lena recites freedom, equality, brotherhood, justice, and nobility. He asks if she is upholding them. Ideals are ideals precisely because they are unattainable. If she is aware they are impossible to attain, he asks whether it is not cowardly to blindly pursue them. On the way home, Lena overhears a military update broadcast, then thinks about Theoda's and Karlstahl's words until it becomes too much, and she runs away. As she runs, she remembers Kirschblut telling her she isn't cut out for the job, then pulls out her para-raid collar and synchronizes with the Undertaker. When he asks what she wants, Lena apologizes for everything that has happened, gives him her full name, and asks that he tell her theirs. Shin tells her not to worry about what Laughing Fox said, and that it doesn't reflect what they all think. They understand she doesn't have the power to change the impossible, and he tells her not to blame herself. Lena still insists on knowing their names. He says it is not necessary. They all have code names because the Legion cannot intercept them, and their personnel files are restricted so handlers don't have to think of them as human. Most processors die within a year. Lena calls it cowardly. She thinks about running away as well, but she doesn't want to run anymore. She asks again for their names, and he sighs. Shin tells her the girl who died yesterday, Kirschblut, was Kai, then gives the full names of everyone in the squadron. Afterwards, she thanks him and tells him to call her Lena. Shin asks for her rank, and she says she has just been promoted to Major. Shin says that moving forward, he will address her as Major Melize. Lena asks what he is doing, and he tells her he is leaving Kai's name behind. Shin explains that in the 86, they don't have proper graves. In his first unit, they made a promise. When someone dies, they carve their name into a fragment from their juggernaut, and the survivors carry it. The last person carries everyone to the final destination. He is the last. He has been the last in every unit since, so it's his job in this one too. Lena asks how many have died, and Shin says 561, including Kai, and he remembers every single one because he has to take them to their final destination. Lena asks if it is possible to apologize directly to the others as well, and Shin begins connecting her with them immediately. Shin gathers everyone as Lena apologizes for yesterday and her behavior up until now. Theo stops her and asks if Shin already told her their names, when she says he did, but she wanted to hear it from them. Everyone present in the room smiles while Theota looks frustrated. Shin asks if he regretted it, not what he said, but how he said it. He tells her his name is Theo, and his mark is Laughing Fox. It was passed down from the captain of his first unit. He was cheerful, optimistic, and stupidly strong, and an Alba like her. He was a weirdo who thought it wasn't right for only the 86 to fight and return to the battlefield. They hated him, but he never left until one day he got killed. Raiden goes next. He apologizes first because they thought she was a hypocritical pig during their nightly calls. However, he agrees with Theo, and they don't think of her as their comrade and never will. He does not recommend their nightly calls since she isn't fit to be their handler. Lena giggles and says she will continue if it helps them pass time. Raiden laughs and calls her a moron, then requests the map from the day before. Daya says goodnight to the Major, and Haruto says it was nice speaking with her. Anju introduces herself next, and Kurena does as well. Later, Lena asks the Undertaker for his name. Shin apologizes and says he had forgotten. He tells her it is Shine Nuzan. Lena hears it and asks if she knew a man named Shure Nuzan. His code name was Dullahan, and his mark was a headless knight. That sends chills down his spine as he has flashbacks. Then he smiles and says it was his brother. After Lena's father gets bodied, she screams out to him as the Legion drone turns toward her. A lone juggernaut suddenly appears behind her and obliterates it. Shure exits the unit and asks if she's alright. After reporting in, he offers her a Hershey's bar to calm her nerves. Lena says her father told her they were doing unspeakable things to the 86, then asks why he protected her. Shure tells her they were born and raised there, and it is a citizen's duty to fight for their country and something to be proud of. When his stomach growls, Lena returns the chocolate. He mentions he has a younger brother her age. She asks if he has seen him, but he snaps the chocolate and says he can't return home yet. Lena thanks him, and he smiles. While riding in the Juggernaut, he tells her his name is Shure Nuzan and to call him Ray. It is a rare name in the Republic. He and his brother were born there, but their parents were from a neighboring country. Lena asks if he is afraid to fight. Shure says yes, but if he doesn't fight, he can't survive, and he has a little brother he needs to make it home to. Back in the present, Lena asks how Shure is doing, but Shin informs her he died on the Eastern Front 5 years ago. Shin asks if she remembers asking what he wanted to do after the military, saying there was nothing he wanted, only something he had to do. 8 days later, Annette makes Lena a strawberry shortcake with artificial cream, but real strawberries, and Lena thinks it tastes amazing. Annette asks if she wants to shop for party dresses for the Revolution Festival next week, but Lena says she will be busy. Annette mentions she hasn't been around lately. Lena hears someone has been trying to rizz her up lately and tells her to ask him to go. Annette says he's a miniature Steve Urkel and only wants her family's money. Annette notices Lena looks exhausted and points out she has been overusing the para-raid. Lena says she has been up late analyzing combat data, but when Annette repeats that there is no point in helping the 86, Lena only smiles. A week later, Lena asks Shin if it is really okay for her to attend the party, worried a battle might break out. Shin tells her they are fine, and she doesn't need to sacrifice her private time for them. She asks if her help is unwanted, but Shin reassures her that her analysis of enemy forces is useful. He warns that focusing too much on the battlefield will make her like him. Shin mentions he remembers seeing fireworks with his brother in front of the White Palace in the 1st District. Lena apologizes. She says Shure said he knew Shin would grow up strong and wanted to return home. She suddenly hears the car and says he was supposed to be on patrol. Shin apologizes and asks if she's mad. Lena says she trusts him if he says it is unnecessary. She sees a girl getting rizzed up, gets flustered, and runs past them. When she reaches the top, Shin suddenly tells the Major they are preparing for battle. During the operation, Shin tells the Major there are many black sheep and to cut the connection since it's dangerous. If she wants to know why, he can explain later. Lena refuses, saying she wouldn't know what is happening otherwise. Shin says he warned her and charges in. Lena demands to know what he is doing, but she starts hearing voices that aren't static. She trembles, screams frantically, and begs it to stop. Shin calls out to her, but she doesn't respond. When he finally cuts the connection, she hears Kai saying she doesn't want to die. Lena returns home, but the voices continue, begging for their mother and for help, until she screams that she doesn't want to die. She looks at the para-raid, then at her reflection. During the battle, Shin and the others hear Kai's voice as well. They ask if he burned her with the Juggernaut, but they realize she was taken, and Shin identifies the source. He gives Kurena its location and orders her to silence it. They prepare to annihilate the remaining forces as Kurena moves in with the sniper. Later that night, Raiden says everyone gave it their all, like they wanted revenge today. He adds they might feel lonely now since no handler has ever called back after hearing the voices. Moments later, Shin synchronizes with the Major, which surprises them. Lena apologizes for losing control and asks what the voices were. Shin says he died once, and that is why he can hear them. They are the voices of the dead, and the Legion are a ghost army of a fallen country. That is why he doesn't need to patrol. He can hear them at all times, even in his sleep. He doesn't know exact distances, but is aware of every Legion past the former Republic border. Lena asks if it is painful, but Shin says he is used to it. She asks if he heard Kai's voice, but instead, he explains the Republic predicts the war will end in 2 years. The Legion's central processing unit is modeled after a brain, and that design should cause it to shut down after a total of 6 years. Shin says if that fails, they'll replace it with human brains from the battlefield. Humans' nervous systems are more advanced than other creatures. He has heard multiple Legion with the same voices, meaning they are likely copies of brains and fading echoes of the dead. That is what the Black Sheep are, ghosts within the Legion, and they are becoming more common. Shin tells her they will lose the war. The new Legion design will not shut down in 2 years. Only children remain in the 86, and they are already dying. He asks if the Alba would fight if they understood the cost of forcing war onto others. He explains they have observed low numbers because the Legion is conserving forces and building an army in the rear. Lena says that is impossible, but Shin says the damaged heads of the dead still process better than standard units. He asks what happens if they obtain an undamaged brain, a ghost commander guiding the Legion. They are called shepherds, and the armies they lead are stronger than the rest. Lena asks if they already exist and if he can hear them. Shin says yes, and that their voices travel far. Lena says they just need to defeat them before then. She will analyze the enemy and provide data. Shin's service ends this year, and she intends to end the war before then so they can both survive. When Shin agrees and asks to end the call, Lena says goodnight. In the past, Shin walks through a freezing ghost town with an AK-47 slung across his back. He spots his brother's Juggernaut, drops the weapon, and walks over. When he reaches it, he just stares at the headless body with a hollow expression. On July 27th, the crew ran excitedly toward the place where they once saw cherry blossoms, back when their unit was formed. 3 months earlier, they had met at that same location and shared which units they came from. They were all 4-year veterans. The boys immediately start talking, teasing each other about which baddies they want. Haruto points out that Daya wanted to crack Anju, and Theo calls him a pathetic simp, announcing it to everyone. Anju walks over and asks Daya if he requested her presence. Daya reluctantly called it a sausage fest. Kujo saves him by bringing up a rumor about a rich girl working as a handler, and they all assume she must have large milk jugs since she's a white pig. Theo shows a sketch, and they roast her, saying she probably speaks prim and proper, might be frail, and has never held anything heavier than a knitting needle. They add she probably joined the military because she couldn't get married. Daya calls her a goddess sent to save the 86. Kujo wants to meet her someday, but Theo dismisses her as just another white pig. While they mess around, Kai approaches Shin, saying people going to battle hate cherry blossoms because they bloom and fall all at once. However, she likes that about them, and uses it as her Juggernaut mark. She mentions concern about Legion attacks. Kurena joins in, and they talk about Shin being known as the Headless Reaper of the Eastern Front. They all say they are glad he is their captain, and hope they survive the next 6 months, then run off excitedly to see shooting stars. In the present, Lena apologizes for being late to the mission. The mission begins as they charge in together, but they are immediately hit by Scorpion artillery. The Legion has adapted, learning to predict their routes and ambush them, bombarding every hiding spot and finishing with low units. Lekka is knocked down. Daya rushes forward past Anju and charges in, but is quickly shot and pinned down. The squad tells him to get up as they fire back, but the humanoid Legion tanks the explosions and latches onto his Juggernaut with a grin. He looks back and says, "I love you" to Anju before exploding mid-sentence. As the Legion closes in on her, Lekka tells the Reaper she's counting on him, then kills herself before being taken. After the battle, Shin asks the Major if she would cut her para-raid if he requested it. He asks if she has ever seen someone get shot, then says he couldn't let Daya become a Legion. He tells her she is free to cut the link if she can't handle it. She refuses, saying it is her responsibility as handler. After the call, Shin Shin hears his brother's voice and looks at his mark. Later after dinner, the boys check on Anju, but she says she's fine. Shin and Raiden feel the weight of the losses, but continue forward. Raiden asks if Shin will keep fighting until he can make a grave for his brother. Shin says it is all he can do because he has not forgiven him, and his brother still blames him. As he walks away, Raiden says he is truly a reaper searching for his brother's head. Later that night, Shin has a vision of his brother calling out to him as a legion, blaming him for their parents' deaths and his own, calling it his sin. Earlier that day, for Lena's birthday, Annette makes her a strawberry shortcake and gives her a present. Lena is confused, since she sent her a rocking chair the day before. Annette says an old officer tried to impress her by giving it, but his riz was non-existent, so she gave it to Lena instead. She notices Lena looks exhausted and asks what is wrong. Lena asks what would happen if the para-raid affected the brain. Annette says they would open the processor's skull, examine the brain, then discard it. If it is a handler, they would examine them normally and transfer them. Lena is horrified. She is suddenly called to a mission and tells Annette to leave the cake for later. Annette calls after her, saying she will make the original cake next year. Lena reports the 2 casualties to Karlstahl. He ignores it and asks how many machines remain. Lena suggests using mortars for better support to save the 86, but Karlstahl refuses, saying mortars are too slow and the risk on Republic soldiers is unacceptable for filthy peasants. The 86 can be replaced, but Republic soldiers cannot. He orders her again not to side with them. Lena insists they are human, but he dismisses it and assigns a new mission. A Legion base has been detected nearby, and Spearhead must destroy it immediately. Lena says it is too soon and asks for time to replace the fallen members, but he insists delaying would endanger them further. Lena informs Shin. She apologizes, but Shin says it is fine. They already know it is likely a trap, but ignoring it is more dangerous. She tells them to rest and says goodnight. The whole squad warmly replies. After they leave, Shin stays behind and asks if she is all right. Her voice is shaky. He tells her to rest and suggests she eat sweets inside the walls. Lena says he reminds her of his brother, who gave her chocolate when times were hard. She says those moments were precious, and so is talking with him. She realizes she tried to riz him, then cuts the connection. On August 25th, while Shin speaks to Lena, Raiden and the others try to cheer Anju up with fireworks, but she only cries while looking up at the sky. 10 days earlier, on August 15th, Lena requested supplies for the Spearhead Squadron. When the officer asks what is in the box, she nervously bribes him with money and says it is special ammunition. While checking her small wallet, she notices a flyer for the Revolution Festival on August 25th, then trips and falls. The men salute her, but she becomes flustered. During another battle, Lena panics again from the Legion's voices. Kurena tells her to quit while she still can, saying it is distracting hearing her scream even if she isn't on the battlefield. Lena asks if it ever gets to them. Kurena says even without it, processors constantly hear the screams of dying comrades. They have seen each other torn apart, burned, stomachs ripped open, and dying in agony. Compared to that, the voices are nothing. Dying tomorrow is not unusual for them either. At night, Lena reports in. Raiden apologizes, saying it is only the guys tonight and Shin has been sleeping since the mission. After heavy casualties, the squad is strained. Lena says she will continue requesting replacements, but none have arrived yet. The next day, Lena brings a box of cigars and a bottle of whiskey directly to Karlstahl to complain. He says he already informed them about her requests and that it is an internal matter. When Lena smiles, he tells her to wear a nice dress and enjoy the festival. On the night of the festival, Annette criticizes her for dressing like someone from Spearhead died. Lena says it is fine since no one has tried to riz her up yet. Annette suddenly spots one of her fiancés and leaves. Shin then reports in. He asks if she is all right since she hasn't checked in, and she apologizes. He informs her the special ammunition arrived and thanks her for the fireworks. She apologizes for being late and wishes the others could have seen them. Shin says it is the first time he was able to give them a gun salute and that Anju was finally able to cry. She usually bottles things up, so he is grateful for that. None of them will forget each other, just like she didn't forget his brother. That makes him happy since he can't remember him. He asks the Major not to forget them. Lena says she will not, but she has no intention of letting any more of them die. Earlier in the day, Shin received the special ammunition from the Major. The men ridicule him, saying a pig doesn't deserve gifts from humans. While showering, Kurena asks Anju if they should stop talking to the Major. Anju asks if she is jealous, but Kurena mentions the Major isn't scared of Shin and thinks they should tell her. She believes Shin and Raiden are hiding it to protect her. Anju asks if Kurena wants to tell her, but Kurena says it isn't her place. She knows if she dies, Shin will carry her too, but wonders who will carry Shin once he's gone. 2 days later, Lena asks the Undertaker to report in. He says all units are beginning the attack on the Legion forward base. During the operation, heavy artillery suddenly rains down and starts wiping them out. After analysis, Lena informs them the firing position is 120 kilometers east-northeast, with an estimated muzzle velocity of 4,000 meters per second. It is an ultra-long-range artillery cannon they have never seen before. Shin is reminded of Shure, and Lena orders a retreat. After the battle, Lena frantically says she will request replacements, but Shin tells her there is nothing she can do. No replacements are coming. They are being wiped out on purpose, and it's an extermination unit. The replacements are the processors sent after them. They just received a new shipment of juggernauts. The Republic never intended to let them leave the 86th sector. They enlisted for 5 years just to die at the end. All processors die before their term is up. They are only sent to the front lines so they can be erased. But somehow their group survived too well. The Republic won't risk them surviving and leading a rebellion. Lena begins crying and asks if they all knew. They did. None of their friends or families ever came back. They knew from the start the Republic wouldn't keep its promises. Lena asks why they still fight and why they don't take revenge. Raiden says revenge would be easy, they would just sit back and let the Legion through. But before he was 12, an old Alba woman took care of him. Shin was raised by an Alba priest who was sent to the camps for refusing to abandon the people. Theo had his old Captain Fox. Kurena saw firsthand how cruel the Republic can be, but Kai was abused by other 86ers because of her skin color. Anju, Haruto, and Shin all have some Alba and Imperial blood. Even among the 86, there are people like them. There is evil on both sides, so they chose what kind of people they would be. If the choice is to die fighting the Legion or die giving up, they choose to survive until the end. That is their pride. Why tighten a noose today if you are going to die tomorrow anyway? Even if they are headed to the gallows, they choose how to walk up to it. Afterwards, Shin checks in with another unit to see if they found Chise's juggernaut, but they report nothing. He tells Raiden during the battle he heard his brother's voice again, promising he will come for him next. Raiden responds, saying he will follow the Reaper into the pits of hell. The next day, Lena reads the new orders. The target is the deepest point in Legion-held territory. Mission duration is unlimited, with 0 support and immediate execution if they retreat. She realizes Shin was telling the truth about the execution order. Lena arrives at Annette's home in tears, telling her about the mission's 0% survival rate and begging for help. Annette asks what she is supposed to do, saying that if changing things were possible, it wouldn't be like this. Lena tells her to stop hiding behind the idea of being powerless. Annette snaps back, telling her to just stop it. She explains her neighbors were scientists, and their families were close before the war. Their children were friends. Then, the 86 classification began, and everything changed. The children stopped going to school. People mocked her for being friends with a filthy pig. The boy still wanted to play with her, but she rejected him and fought with him, calling him a low-life peasant. She admits she was scared of what she said. Her father considered taking them in, despite the danger, but she refused. The next day, they were sent to the camps. She tells herself ever since that she couldn't do anything. She then tells Lena she may act like a saint, but she is just as guilty. Annette leads Lena into a dark room and explains the origins of the para-raid system. The children next door and their mother had a strange ability to sense each other's thoughts. Her father studied it obsessively, and when the military discovered it, they forced him to develop it into what became the para-raid. She asks if Lena knows how many 86 died in its creation. Many died in suffering experiments. Her father couldn't bear it and killed himself, leaving behind guilt over the lives lost. Annette says she is also guilty for continuing his work and inheriting all of his patients. Then she tells Lena she is even worse because she keeps the 86 alive only to send them to their deaths. She tells her she hates her and never wants to see her again. Lena marches to Karlstall and demands the cancellation of Spearhead's special recon orders. Karlstall says the 86 must die. If the truth of their treatment comes out after the war, the Republic will become a pariah state, so their existence must be erased. Lena argues that the 86 are citizens of the Republic and should be protected under its ideals. Karlstall dismisses this, calling the Republic a nation of fools and villains who never deserved freedom or equality, and says humans are not ready for those ideals. Lena pleads with Shin not to take the orders, but he refuses. She says they'll die and asks why he doesn't hate the Republic. Shin replies, they aren't going to die, they are finally following the path they chose to the place they want to reach. They are becoming free. Lena asks him not to speak like that, but Shin says they must fight to move forward. She asks if he is going to kill his brother. Shin sighs, hoping she wouldn't realize it. She says she can tell he is sad, even if he laughs coldly. She begs him not to fight, but he says even if they run, his brother is the shepherd in their way and must be confronted through battle. Shin tells her not to monitor them anymore and not to listen to his final words. He tells her to stop contacting them. Lena drops to her knees as he continues. He tells her to go past the eastern border, where she will no longer hear the Legion's voices. If anyone survives, help may come. Killing a shepherd will throw the Legion into chaos and buy time. He tells her to survive until then. The para-raid connection cuts off. On September 27th, Aldrich tells Shin not to fight like a maniac. Shin says no promises. The old man says it is the last time they'll speak, so he should at least lie. After putting away Haruto's piece, the others gather as Aldrich gives one final lecture. Theo repaints his emblem, Raiden salutes the mural, Anju plays with Blackie, and Kurena cleans up. Shin leaves behind a letter and smiles as he walks out. The next morning, the last 5 members gather for breakfast and remember their first day together. They once promised that no matter who called them pigs, they would never become them. Even if they were the last ones, they would fight until the end. On the way out, Theo is surprised the Major hasn't called back. After the rain, their juggernauts are cleaned and Fido is washed. They board up with Fido and the supply units as Aldrich gives them snacks and waves goodbye. In the past, Shin asks Shirei when their parents are coming home. Shirei shoves him down and tries to strangle him, blaming him for the war. In his mind, he insists it isn't true. The Alba priest pulls him off, realizing what has happened. In the present, Shirei's zombified mind has been taken over, and he claims he has come to protect his little brother. At the start of the battle, the Legion forces in the area converge all at once. Shirei's voice suddenly calls out to Shin, and Shin responds with a faint, unsettling smile. He orders the squad to take cover in the forest and move once the enemy passes through. Raiden is placed in command, and Shin states he will rejoin after defeating them. The advance cannot continue until the enemy is cleared, and his brother wouldn't allow it either. Raiden tells him he could have at least asked them to fight with him, but then disobeys the idea of holding back and tells Shin to hurry up while they handle the smaller units. He warns Shin not to die before charging off and heading directly toward his brother. Kurena notices the enemy formation is trying to isolate Shin. Theo says it's not standard Legion behavior. Raiden concludes it must be the shepherd's command. Shin moves through the trees, dodging fire while eliminating scouts. He keeps firing at the shepherd, but it continuously sends reinforcements. Shin outmaneuvers it, leaps above it, and fires down onto it, but the attack has no effect. A scout closes in, but the shepherd destroys it immediately. Shin realizes it intends to kill him personally, and he admits that is exactly what he wants as well. Theo calls for Fido to reload, while Kurena tells him to keep track of ammo. Anju says it doesn't matter as long as they thin the enemy numbers. Reinforcements arrive, confirming no retreat is planned. Raiden accepts it, but the sky suddenly erupts with artillery fire. Lena synchronizes in, requesting shared visuals with Raiden and ordering them to brace for impact. After the bombardment, Raiden yells at her for risking their vision through synchronization and questions how she even authorized artillery strikes. Lena replies that she wouldn't be killed for using firepower against enemies when the higher-ups refuse proper reasoning. Raiden laughs and calls her reckless, but she insists they focus on the battlefield while she handles the reinforcements. She asks where Shin is. Raiden replies he is engaged with his brother and refuses to listen to orders anymore. Shin uses the terrain for cover, rushes in, and slashes the shepherd's upper body before firing a missile. It is deflected by a slime-like barrier. He retreats, but the shepherd pursues him and hurls him away. Lena announces the enemy is retreating, then suddenly screams for Shin to get up. Raiden panics. She orders Kurena to calculate the most accurate enemy position. Anju warns Shin is too close for artillery, but Lena insists she has a plan and refuses to let him die. Meanwhile, Shirei declares they will finally be together once Shin is freed from his human body. The squad restrains him, and he notices an incoming missile. Realizing it will kill Shin as well, he throws himself in its path. Shirei says he loved Shin and would protect him at any cost. Lena asks how that is possible after he already killed him. Shirei looks at Shin's body and breaks down. Lena slaps him. He regains awareness as the artillery shells turn out to be duds. On the ground, Shin hears voices calling for him to get up. Shirei chokes him, blaming him for their parents' deaths. Shin recalls Lena's words and regains consciousness. He charges forward, forces the barrel into the shepherd's mouth, and fires. During the explosion, Shirei realizes he no longer needs to hold on and lets go as his consciousness fades. He apologizes as the blast ends his remaining existence. Afterward, Shin sits before the burning shepherd at sunrise. His memories of his brother's face return. His chest tightens, and he breaks down in tears. Earlier that day, Lena approaches Annette and requests access to artillery control and visual synchronization. Annette refuses. Lena looks toward the neighboring house and says she will proceed anyway. She asks if the boy she abandoned was named Shin. Annette is shocked and asks how she knows. She explains there were few 86ers from the 1st District, especially boys with older brothers. She recognizes him as her childhood friend who spoke with her every night. the Undertaker. Annette grabs her and asks if Shin still hates her. Lena steps back and says it isn't her problem. She says she abandoned him twice and asks if she will do it a third time. Annette calls her the devil. After the mission, Lena says Shin was safe because of her, but Annette says she wasn't the one who saved him. Moments later, Shin reports in and thanks the Major for saving them. Theo asks what happened to her. Raiden says she suddenly turned into a bad gal like Rihanna. Kurena jokes she was about to wipe them all out, then they all start teasing her before admitting they are grateful. They speak about moving forward on their own and tell the Major they hope her next team does well. As they prepare to move out, Lena calls out for them not to leave her behind. She runs after them, dropping her cap as she leaves headquarters. The squad advances further and reaches a structure. Raiden thinks it is a cathedral. Theo says train station. Anju suggests castle or mansion. They arrive at a sea of crimson flowers. Theo notices the petals fall as they pass through. Anju calls it beautiful but sad. Theo says it is the first time they have seen something this beautiful while being free. Lena trips while running. The squad reaches the edge of Republic-controlled territory. Shin says they have finally reached the outside of the 86th sector. Lena cries as Shin calls out that they are moving forward. They cut the para-raid connection. Lena collapses, crying, as the squad finally experiences freedom. The crew spends the following days traveling in relative peace, though the tension never fully fades. Every time Shin hears the Legion, the group instinctively stays alert, checking their surroundings. Shin and Raiden stop at a lake and realize the Juggernauts can't cross it. Anju approaches and asks about their drones, but Theo points out they are too damaged, with holes that would let water flood in. He calls it their new freedom. Raiden asks what the plan is, but instead of rushing forward, Shin suggests staying there for a few days. They clean their clothes and spend the next days together in a brief period of calm. While fishing, Raiden says it feels like they are the last people on Earth. Shin laughs and repeats the same corny line Raiden once said under the meteor shower. Raiden asks how many names there are now, and Shin answers 576, including his brother. Fido is carrying all of them. Shin says they could only carry them so far since supplies were running low. Raiden asks if he has any regrets, or a new answer to the Major's question about what he wants afterward. Shin says his answer is still the same. They cross into Imperial territory and arrive at a small town. Raiden sees that the others look like normal kids walking through the streets. He asks Shin if the Empire of Giad brings back memories, but Shin says his parents were born there, and he has never been there himself. He has no memory of them either. At a tunnel, Shin begins walking in alone, but Raiden stops him and warns him not to wander off. Shin says not to worry because it hasn't noticed them and their paths will not cross. Raiden asks if he needs rest, but Shin laughs and says he is used to the voices. Even in enemy territory, it is manageable. Since they are not in active combat, it is easier, and he tells Raiden not to worry. Later that night, the group notices Shin has been smiling more and telling jokes. Kurena believes he is finally at peace after laying his brother to rest. Anju says he has finally found someone he can entrust himself to. Raiden repeats Shin's final words to the Major, that they are going ahead. He notes that the Reaper, who had always been left behind after losing comrades, finally had a chance to leave words behind for someone as well. The next morning, Shin is gone. His Juggernaut is still there, so he hasn't abandoned them, but his rifle and pistol are missing. His para-raid is offline. Raiden leads them to the tunnel, and they follow it to a zoo. They look around and realize the place resembles them, all beaten and used up. In the center, they find Shin standing alone with a scout-type Legion in front of him. Raiden rushes forward, but Shin tells him it is harmless. It cannot move anymore. It has been calling out to him since the day before. Shin says it is an 86, like them. They can't communicate with it, but he can hear its voice. Raiden asks what its last words were. Shin says it wanted to go home. Shin steps forward, cocks his pistol, and ends its remaining existence. While looking at the animal's remains, Shin tells everyone journeys like this usually ends with the travelers arriving in paradise. Raiden asks if he means heaven. Kurena asks if this was how they'll die as well. Raiden states if there was a guarantee way to heaven, he would have blown his brains out a long time ago. In the past, Fido lies on a battlefield watching Shin carve pieces from fallen comrades' juggernauts. Shin notices it still moving and realizes it is alive. He tells it his entire squad has been wiped out and asks if it wants to go home with him. Fido spends the following years following Shin as he grows up, eventually reaching the Spearhead barracks. The men ridicule them, calling them pigs as they take their portraits. Shin notices a screw on the ground, kicks it into the air, and throws it across the yard before walking up to one of the men to ask for a favor. Fido continues spending time with the Spearheads over the following months, sharing in brief moments of life between battles as members die one by one. Over time, it watches them fade away until it is eventually alone. On October 30th, Kurena wakes up in the middle of battle to the sound of the others calling her name in distress. She climbs up and sees Raiden and Anju fighting on foot, firing at incoming enemies while Shin attempts to protect all of them. After the battle, only Shin's juggernaut remains operational, and Fido is out of commission. They still have weapons, but ammunition is critically low. Food, supplies, and ammo were all destroyed in the flames. Before moving out, they agree to rotate piloting duties, with whoever is driving also handling combat. Theo complains Shin made the controls overly sensitive. Hearing this, Karena volunteers to pilot first, since she was the first taken down and is not exhausted. While traveling, Shin orders a halt and spots a cave nearby. As rain begins to fall, they take shelter inside, while Legion units pass outside. They notice Legion activity has increased significantly. Shin states they are nearing the enemy base. They reach a ghost town and enter a building. Theo identifies it as a school, and Anju notes Karena has never seen one before, so she asks to camp there for the night. They step into a classroom. Anju calls for Raiden, and he answers. She calls Theo, and he answers. She calls Karena, and Karena smiles as she responds. She calls Anju next, and she responds. Finally, she calls out to the Reaper, and Shin smiles and responds as well. Shin says that if they are not going to study, they should use the chairs as firewood. Kurena watches them break the furniture and asks if this is also a school activity. Theo jokes it is like delinquents tearing the school apart, and Anju laughs at him. Raiden asks what they will use for kindling, and Shin tears apart textbooks, making everyone go silent in shame. Once the fire is lit, Kurena pulls out the last piece of candy from the old man. She says there will be no more after-dinner dessert, then tosses the container upward. While everyone sleeps, Karena keeps watch. Shin suddenly asks to switch with Anju. Anju says it is her turn until lunch, and Shin claims he is bored. Upon hearing this, the others sigh in relief. Shin steps outside and looks ahead. Once Anju is inside and the signal is given, Shin cuts the connection lines and blocks the path, stating that whoever is piloting must fight and then advance. As everyone begins to disembark, Shin warns them there is an unavoidable enemy unit ahead. Anju says it is unfair, and Karena realizes that is why he switched. Shin tells them to move through the forest, and they will stop hearing the voices. If they find survivors, they should ask for help. Theo tells him to stop messing with them and asks if he is really planning to be the decoy. Shin cuts communications and dives into battle. He circles enemy units, using their cannons against them and destroying them one by one. Heavy artillery suddenly begins raining down on him. Meanwhile, Raiden advances, while the others demand to go with him. Shin gets back up and realizes the artillery is from the same long-range cannons as before. A voice echoes through the battlefield, screaming about killing everyone, children, women, and anyone who threatens the princess. More artillery strikes land, and Shin's juggernaut loses a leg and becomes immobilized. The others arrive and witness the destruction, immediately opening fire. Shin hears them calling his name and calls them fools. Legion units tear into the juggernaut while a humanoid abomination charges in. Theo runs out of ammunition and is blown away. The others continue firing but are also overwhelmed and knocked down. Shin wonders whose name he will call when he becomes a Legion. Weeks earlier, Lena arrives at the Spearhead Barracks and is greeted by Aldrecht. He tells her to see for herself, saying they didn't leave much behind. As she walks, he notes that he has seen many children go on their final march, but this is the first time a handler has ever come in person. Lena asks about him, but he stops her and reveals he is an Alba. His wife and daughter were 86. He dyed his hair and followed them, volunteering in hopes of earning their rights back, but they never returned. When Shin arrived, Aldrecht asked if any Legion were calling his name, but there were none. Lena asks what he would have done if there were, and he says he would have gone out and let them kill him. That answer gave him peace. It meant they were not lost forever and were waiting on the other side. He tells every 86 that he is an Alba when they arrive. They have every right to hate him, even kill him, but they never do. He apologizes for taking her time, and Lena removes her cap and thanks him. Lena walks through the barracks and sees how they were living. Plants have withered from the poor air. Their quarters are small and confined. She notices the cat and remembers Daya saying it liked Undertaker. She follows it. The cat leads her into their room and scratches at Shin's desk. Inside, she finds a toy and Shin's book. She opens it and discovers letters they left behind. The first is Theo's pig drawing, with Raiden's notes calling her a dummy if she ever found it. Theo's note lists everyone's names and identifies them in a photo. Karena and Anju ask her to take care of the cat and give it a proper name. Lena begins to cry, then finds Shin's note asking that if she reaches their final destination, she should leave flowers there. Lena promises she will keep moving forward as she picks up the cat and heads home. If you made it this far, leave a comment for Season 2 and watch this video next.